Hello and welcome to this OpenTX quick tip. This quick tip is all around OpenTX timers and it's specifically for this chap here. So this is for Maximilian Eder, who sent me this message on YouTube. Now normally I only create OpenTX videos these days for Patreons because there's so many already on the channel. So if you are new to OpenTX or want to understand how to get into it and how it all works, then check out my OpenTX Mix School and the introduction to things like the Taranis and the QX7 and the other radios as well. But this specific one here is looking at the timers, and I've realized I've not really done a video on timers, so Maximilian, thank you for the idea. Now he's specifically got a motorized glider. He has one timer that works for throttle. That one is timer 2 is on a switch that you use for total flight time, so it's flicking a switch to start and stop that timer when he's in the air. And timer 3, he would like that to keep track of all the flight time. So if you've ever seen a high performance car that has like an engine hour thing, every time the engine's running, that timer is running as well, so you know how many hours you have on the model. That is what he's trying to do. So this is how I have tackled it. So I'm first of all going to simulate the radio because that's the easy way to do it. I know for some of you looking at Companion doesn't make sense because you don't use this system very often. You use the radio, but I can still show you how to do it on the radio by using the simulator. In Companion, what you'll find is that things like timers are much easier to get to and to understand how you can set them up and what all the different options are. Now all of these options are still available through the radio. So if you just press the menu button and page across for the first page of the model setup, as you go down you'll notice that timer 1 is started by throttle start. So as soon as the throttle lifts, it's going to start. I've called it throttle. Whether it's persistent or not, that's whether or not it resets when you turn the radio on or off, whether or not there's a minute call. You can also have the countdown silent, and there's the second timer that we've set up that we'll look at in a second, and there's the third one too. So they're all there, but if you exit it, then you'll notice that only the first 2 timers are shown on here. So the 2 things I'm going to show you is, first of all, is how you set these up so that it works, and the second thing I'm going to show you is how you can get all 3 timers on the screen at once if that's something you want to do. So before we get into that, let me just explain how the timers work. So again, you can call the timers anything you want. If you don't give them a name, it'll just call them timer 1, 2 and 3, and you can either have them set at 0, in which case they will start from 0 and count up, or you can set them for a specific fly time. So for example, we might say that we want it counting down from 8 minutes. So we've got hours, minutes and seconds. And we've got loads of different ways that we can trigger it. Now we can either trigger it through a good old-fashioned switch, which is what we're actually doing here for the second one. What we're doing is saying when the switch SA is not in the top position, then start this timer. But you can also set it by having the throttle start automatically or throttle percentages, and look in things like the OpenTX University website for what all these do. But the ones I tend to use is throttle start. So what that means, if I show it here, as soon as I raise the throttle, there we go, we have started counting. But it might be that when we're in the air, I get to altitude and I'm in a nice glider and I cut the throttle off, then it stops counting until I spool the engine back up and maybe I'm climbing again or performing a maneuver and it starts counting down, then I can stop it. Now, to have the other flight time running, again, if SA is not in the top position, then that timer starts. And that timer is completely separate from this other one that I've got from the throttle. So I can see how much engine I've got used and how long I've actually been in the air. Now this is really useful for fixed wing. For a quadcopter pilot, you're probably looking at this and thinking, what's the point of having 2 timers? The point is that, of course, with a fixed wing model, we can glide. And if you only have 8 minutes of battery available for your motor, but you're soaring around and maybe you have some kind of glider and you're maybe doing a bit of slope soaring or you've caught a thermal, you might be able to turn the motor off completely and it will extend your flight time. And you're only interested in kind of tracking when there's current being drawn from the motor. Now, that is great, and we can reset all these. So maybe we've landed, so we'll turn that timer off. If you press and hold the enter button, we can reset the entire flight. I'm trying to click it with the mouse there, that's not going to work, is it? We can reset the flight, and what that will do is that will reset all of the different pieces. So we're back now to 8 and 0. Now the last timer that we've got here is timer 3, and I'm calling that total. And the way that works is it's starting for 0, and again we could have it either started automatically from moving the throttle, or we could have it in exactly the same way. So we could have when SA was in the back position, and this time we'll choose whether or not we want it to be persistent for the flight or for the manual reset, or not persistent at all. Now these first two aren't persistent because every time we select the radio and go into the model, we want it to be reset to 8 minutes and 0. With this, we want it to be manually reset. So let me just show you what we need to do in order to display this. So if I just simulate it. So if we want to display more than just these two timers at once, and again, one of them's running from the throttle, the other one is running all the time from the actual movement of the switch, then what we can do is if we press menu and page and we go right to the very end of this menu, keep pressing page until we get to 14, you can see here that we have the option to add things into the telemetry screens. Now I've done a video on this already. If I click enter and then press the up and down button, I can select whether I want numbers, whether I want bars, or I want a script to be shown on that page. We'll select numbers and press enter. We'll go down and select enter, and again we can just decide what we want to show, and we'll go through all these. You can show loads of different things, and you have custom screens, and eventually we will find, there we go. So we've got the throttle timer. We'll go down, we'll select that. The stuff's right at the very top. Let me just hold this button. There we go. We can have the flight time, press down, enter, and this one will have the total timer shown. That'll work. So press exit. Now if we press and hold page, then there are the 3 timers running. Timer 1, timer 2, and timer 3. Now what's happening here is because that timer is persistent at the end, even if we go back and reset everything. So if we go in here, let's say we've landed, turn that off, and we say reset flight, and then we page across again, you can see that even though we've reset the flight, we haven't reset that persistent timer. And that's because in here we have a manual reset. We haven't reset it with the flight. We have to go and manually reset. So hopefully that's interesting for those of you that are interested in the timers. That's how it's all set. I really like using Companion for this. Just the way it's all set up, all laid out, means it's very, very simple for you to figure out what all the different options are. You can, of course, set this up through the interface, but having timer 1 in here with all these different options, it is a little bit less intuitive, but hopefully that will have explained it for you. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlist around iNav. So thanks again for watching, and happy flying.